This video is an introduction to Black Moon Lilith for Kabbalists, any Kabbalist. In other words, anyone who works with the Tree of Life map, both in terms of the cosmos or all the world that we externalize, including the outermost reaches of outer space, as well as the microcosm, which is our own body, and then inward. So our inner self, our chakras, as above, so below. So whatever we find in the external tree of life, we're going to also find within. So this video is talking about the astronomical Black Moon Lilith, and then how to interpret that from a Kabbalistic perspective and work with it. So let me just start with the astronomical Black Moon Lilith. So as you well know, here we are in Earth, here's Earth in outer space, and then we have the moon going around it in an elliptical orbit. And there's two ways of looking at Black Moon Lilith that end up the same in your chart, so it doesn't really matter, but they have different, ways of thinking about it, so pick your favorite. But in an ellipse, there are two foci or focuses, two that basically define the ellipse, and one of them has Earth in it, and then the one that's farthest from Earth is empty. So that point of emptiness, that focus that's not occupied by any body that we can see in space, is considered Black Moon Lilith by some. And then also sometimes people will say it's the apogee of the moon. So in other words, the furthest point of the moon's projected orbit from Earth, that's Black Moon Lilith. Either way, it'll turn out to be the same in terms of your chart as far as the house and the sign that Black Moon Lilith is in. So let's think about the symbology. So to start off with, let's talk about the moon and earth on the Tree of Life and then look at Lilith. So the earth is Malkuth on the Tree of Life, which is the pendant or the last sphere of the tree. And it's the realm of the elements. It's basically that which, well, at least the part of Malkuth can be seen or felt or smelled by our senses. So it's what we can interact with through the senses is part of Malkuth. And in general, it is the physical counterpart of the moon or Yesod. So Yesod on the Tree of Life is the astral plane. It is dreaming, sexuality. It is the ethereal, formal realm that will bring into manifestation on Malkuth whatever is coming through the sun above it, Tiferoth, and then down. So that basically the moon reflects the spiritual light coming through the sun in Tiferoth, and then it manifests on Malkuth or our earth. So in our bodies, in our microcosm, Malkuth is our body, and Yesod is our astral. It's our sexuality, associated with the genitals and the Muladhara chakra. So it's basically two realms of our being. Now, if you think about Black Moon Lilith as an empty space, within or counterpart to the earth, you can essentially say it's the hidden dimension of Malkuth. And the mythological representations of Lilith, which come to us from 2 aeons ago, if not before that, show Lilith as the first wife of Adam, and she was essentially considered a rebellious spirit because she was created along with Adam as an equal to Adam, but then she was expected by God to be subordinate. And the big story about Lilith was that she wanted to be on top sexually, and Adam wouldn't allow her to do that, and God got very upset with her, and she ran away, and then he captured her again and brought her back. So it was like she was expected to simply obey, simply be obedient and subordinate, and she wouldn't do it. Eventually, she got cast out of the garden, and then she ended up becoming the mother of all these demons and eating babies and doing all kinds of things that, it's very interesting to think about the significance of those things, but I'll leave that for some other time. Obviously, as people have pointed out from the perspective of today, which is very, very different, Lilith was demonized, literally. So it's the idea of this feminine elemental power that has historically been feared, demonized, repressed, suppressed, and still is to an extent today even. So each aeon of basically showing what sign is on the actual eastern horizon at the equinox, the spring equinox, or rather the March equinox, in case you're in the southern hemisphere. Those are changing over time with the precession of the equinox, the wobble of the earth changing that, what we'll see over there. And those that will have great symbolic significance for the way in which we interact with the divine as humans. So the last aeon was that of Pisces, and maybe we're still in it toward the tail end, or maybe we're not. It's kind of a gray area, but in any case, and we're heading into, and certainly we're feeling the approach of the age of Aquarius. So let's look at Lilith from those two perspectives. So in the last aeon, um, everything was about the Christ principle, the sun, and so that is and that's Tiferath in our charts, or the sun in our astrological charts. And essentially, what that means is that whatever made people different, whatever distinguished one from another, was to be suppressed. So specifically, our bodies and our sexuality, as well as our individual uniqueness, were things to try to abstract away from. Let's all follow the Christ. Let's all just emulate him, do what God says to do, and follow the sun, and basically try to negate what's individual about us, what's sexual about us, what's powerful about us as individuals. That's only going to lead to bad things and to sin. So that was the idea in the last aeon. And of course, the consequence of that is that the divine light from Chokmah can only come so far down. It can only come as far down as the ruach, or the sphere of the mind, and then that's it. That's as far as we can get with spirituality. The body was sinful. So now in the new aeon of Aquarius, we're actually attempting to bring the spirit of God all the way down into the body, to unify body and spirit. And also that means basically heaven and earth, which is a pretty tall order. But that's why I think Lilith is coming into prominence again, Black Moon Lilith, because it's an aid to doing that. So how do we unify body and spirit? How do we bring spirit all the way down into that which is unique, that which resists assimilation? Each one of us in the age of Aquarius is both restricted by or given a law through our Saturn, which is to say our structure. And so that's for each one of us, finding that quintessential structure that makes us essentially what we are, and then following that as our own individual law. Mine will be different from yours, and then I'll be different from the third person. And on the other hand, Aquarius is also governed by Uranus, which is Chokmah. It's the divine spirit, but it's also that lightning of genius, that bizarre, erratic, sharp changes that'll happen, illuminating the sky, but also taking and making us seem odd, strange, weird, eccentric. So we're also trying to bring that father principle right down into our incarnation, which looks very different on earth than it does in heaven. So that's what we're attempting to do here. Now, thinking about Black Moon Lilith, we're talking about that, that power of our sexuality, that elemental power of being in the physical flesh. And so how do we wrangle that toward will so that we can bring spirit all the way down into the body and into our universe to manifest God's will on earth, like is talked about in the Bible as the kingdom of heaven or the kingdom of God. So it's two different ways. It depends on your vehicle. If you have a female vehicle or a male one, regardless of your gender identity or expression or your sexuality, it doesn't matter. Your physical vehicle works in a certain way regardless. And so then you have to kind of tweak, for your specifics, whoever you are, whatever you are. So I'm going to get into that in two separate videos. I'll do one for females and I'll do one for males and go from there.